All right, hi everyone. Ryan here with Idle and Emission Solutions today. So we just installed a supercapacitor start module system here with the truck and a couple lithium batteries that are deep cycle batteries. The first one we've installed here, I mean, this isn't something we offer in our shop as we have a competitive technology that's our own as well. It was nice to have the opportunity to do this install to see how this works, what the pros and cons are of this type of system, how the install went, and all that good information. So it kind of gives us a good perspective on multiple technologies that are out there. So we'll kind of get right into it. We have the supercapacitor start module here. Obviously, I mean, you'll know what, but I'm not here to give out free advertising for competitors, so I'm not going to get into brand specifics. I just want to kind of blanket this basically. And then, so we had that and 3 of the Road Warrior Lightning Volt batteries, which we used to install with our systems, but again, we went to our own dual purpose battery, now lithium battery. So again, we put 3 of the Road Warrior batteries in, so you got a 300 amp hour system, and then you have the supercapacitor for starting the truck. Now, one fun fact, this is not really a plug and play installation. The manual is, it's very specific. It needs to be done in order. With any electrical component, it can be dangerous. With a capacitor, I mean, obviously this was completely discharged. It had a little wire across the terminals to keep it discharged, so it's safe to handle and all that. I mean, if you are going to do a do-it-yourself install, I'd have a little bit of electrical knowledge just to be safe. Definitely read that. I went back and forth through the manual like 3 times and just double-checked everything because you don't want everything to be safely done and done correctly. So you don't want to. These are highly expensive. Well over $1,000, so we said you don't want to damage it. Again, back to what I was saying, it's not like a plug-and-play installation. You do have to isolate all of your positives down the starter, and then you have to run a new cable directly from the starting stud down to the starter. And then all of your older cable, typically on most trucks out there, all your positive connections from your alternator, your batteries, and all that stuff, and sometimes some other power leads as well will be all connected at the starter. So you have to take all those off, and then in this case we just bolted them together, heat shrinked everything, and put some more protective loom around it or hose, made sure it was secured underneath the truck where it couldn't arc out on anything. So then we had to build this cable. We used 2-aught marine grade cable, 105 degrees Celsius cable, said 2-aught AWG cable. They do say in the manual that you could use like 2 gauge if it's under a certain length. I'm not real comfortable with that. I mean, I think I would at least use a 1-aught or 2-aught cable going to the starter. I mean, using a good quality cable as well. So I highly recommend using 105 degrees Celsius rated cable. That's about your highest rated cable in most automotive applications. So that way you don't take the risk of overcurrent on a cable and getting it hot and melting it and that type of thing. So other than that, like I said, not after that aspect, figuring that out, making the new cable, everything else was just following the instructions in the order that they want you to hook it up. Once we got everything hooked up, checked everything, checked our voltages, make sure there's no other, parasitic voltage or anything down at the starter that could lead back into this cable. We hooked everything up. We turned on the module here. It took it about 10 to, I didn't have a timer on it, but it took about 10 to 15 minutes for it to charge, and this button here, it's green, it flashes as it charges, so about 10 to 15 minutes on the charge on that. I did notice, we did a DPF clean on this unit as well, so when I was resetting everything in the ECM to tell it I put in the DPF in, I did notice that it came back on charging for a couple seconds and then it went back off again. So other than that, I haven't started this yet, so we're getting ready. We're going to start it right now, and it'll be the first start, so I have no idea you're going to be right here with us, for this event. So with that, we'll go ahead and try to fire it up and see how it performs. We just lost power for some reason. Damn fuse. 13 volts there. It's that fuse. Okay, so I went to start the truck. We had a little bit of a setback here. We had a 200 amp fuse on our cables coming back that were originally hooked to the starter. And when we went to turn the key on, all of a sudden we lost all power. So what happened, our 200 amp fuse blew. And because originally there wasn't a fuse in the system here. So after I finally figured out what was going on, there was a fault for the intake grid heater for cold weather starting. And like I said, there was a fault. We went up, put our clamp meter on, and it was going, this is a 200 amp clamp meter, and it was going out of limits, so over 200. Then we found out that the grid heater was shorted, so we put it on one leg of the grid heater and was pulling like 180 amps on one side. So we disconnected the relay for the grid heater, and now after we replaced the fuse, we're only pulling like 38 amps or so because he's got one of those air dog systems with the pump and all that. So that's 30, 40 amps could be expected with the key on. So with that, we're going to go ahead and try to start this again. All right, moment of truth. It's our clamp meter reading. Clamp meter. Here. Tricky. Okay, so like I said, after that little hiccup with the grid heater, we got everything started up fine. It's not real cold. It's about 55 degrees here in the shop today in Northeast Ohio. So started up charging. We've shown about 90 amps here on the clamp meter for charging the 3 batteries. These batteries, these Road Warrior batteries, looking at the tech data, from what I remember properly, are the most they're rated for is a 200 amp per battery. That's a peak for 3 seconds, and like your max continuous rating is 100 amps per battery. So we put a 300 amp fuse in here that should be sufficient to protect everything. So a couple takeaways with this, in my opinion, I don't know if there's a huge cost benefit ratio in this per se. The capacitor itself is worth $1,000. Retail on the Road Warrior about $750 or so, depending on where you get them. So my concern with this is that you got two different units here doing 2 different things. This is only for starting, and this is only for not starting. So these ain't rated to start. So if you did potentially have an issue, which I haven't, we've worked a little bit with the lightning bolt batteries in the past. I mean, this is the first time I've touched one of these supercapacitors. So it's, if I don't know the durability of them, or people have had any issues or anything like that, so not saying anything negative about the product. It's just if you were to potentially, I mean, we've had to put a safety tag on here to do not jump start, so obviously you can't jump start this. And then anytime you do anything with this, as per my understanding of the manual, is that you have to turn this thing off, discharge it and everything before you can unhook anything or touch anything. So if you had a situation where this wasn't working, you wouldn't be able to jump start it. I mean, you'd have to take this cable loose after you did all the prep work on the capacitor. And then these aren't for starting, so you couldn't just take this and put it over on these batteries to start it. So you could be in a little bit of a situation there. So there's not really any redundancy in it. So that's one thing, in my opinion, that kind of is a little concerning with this setup. Like I said, it's lightweight. It's pretty simple, other than, like I said, in the install we had to add this extra cable and and do some pinouts with the multimeter voltages and all that stuff. Which, like I said, if you're putting one of these in, you'll see all that in the manual. It is simpler than doing a traditional Like if you had lead acid or AGMs up here, then put your lithiums in the back and had to have a DC to DC charger or bistable relay. We've done those in the past, and it just gets time consuming and expensive. You have the extra cabling, extra battery boxes. So I would probably recommend this over that, the split type of system. Like I said, my main concern, like I said, is it's a little bit more of an intermediate install. I mean, if you're going to do one of these yourself, I would want a little bit of electrical background just so you're safe and it's done properly. And two, like I said, I don't like the aspect that there's not really a redundancy here to where if these, because right now these batteries are going to be running your ECM, your TCM, all your modules, all the power for the truck is going to, these lithiums here are going to be responsible for maintaining that power for those systems. So if these went down, you know, or there was an issue with these, and then it's, like I said, you're doing two different things, and there's not a backup basically for either one. So that's really my big concern with this setup right here. The other thing to consider with any lithium battery out there is cold charging. So if you charge a lithium cell when it's too cold, it actually kills the cells. I mean, the little lithium molecules, and they can sink to the bottom, and that's what potentially can cause fires in a lithium battery, is the death of those cells. So these are supposed to be good to -4 Fahrenheit. I'm not sure if they won't allow to charge until they get to a certain internal temp on the cells. I do not believe they have it here. Like I said, we've talked about this before. Like I said, I'm not going to say for certain that they don't have a heater, but I believe that they do not, from what I've read. So the other batteries that we use in our other system, our dual purpose lithium battery, it does have a heater, so it will heat the batteries up to 51 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe, to a safe point to charge. So they will not take a charge until they're properly heated and have a properly heated internal temperature. Like I said, the cold charging is a little bit of a concern, and then again, these aren't a dual purpose battery, so if you were to have an issue with this, then there's really no redundancy. Not saying that there would be an issue down the road. Like I said, I haven't used them, so I can't really say anything about the longevity or the reliability of the system. So, but with that, like I said, not too bad of an install. Probably about 4 hours it took us here to install. We did have to, like I said, buy an extra battery cable. That was a few $100s to build that with good high quality cable. I had to put this other fuse, 300 amp fuse in here, but not too bad. Like I said, about 4 hours. But, other than that, guys, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell for the updates, and like the video.